Hello and thanks for joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start with a look at the day's headlines. Officials from the two Koreas work on setting up a phone hotline between their leaders as the clock ticks down to their summit on April 27th. Seoul has also given the summit a slogan. Exactly 4 years on, South Korea remembers the victims of the Sewol-ho ferry sinking. 304 people, mostly high school students, died when the ferry capsized in waters of Korea's southwestern coast. Plus, US President Donald Trump is poised to hit Russia with new sanctions for enabling the Syrian government's use of chemical weapons in its civil war. Our starting point this morning, with less than 2 weeks to go before the Inter-Korean summit, working-level officials have begun discussing setting up a telephone hotline between the leaders of the two Koreas. South Korea's presidential office said on Sunday that the two sides held talks on Saturday at the truce village on the border, that being Panmunjom. The hotline will allow the two leaders to hold phone conversations as they get ready for their talks. And the presidential office of Cheongwadae has announced the slogan for the summit, bearing the phrase, "Peace, a new start." The April 27th summit will be the first Inter-Korean summit to take place in 11 years. The Blue House also says it'll open an online platform to share real-time information on the summit. It will be available starting Tuesday at noon Korea time at koreasummit.kr. Information in languages other than Korean, including English, the Blue House says will be provided at korea.net. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun on Sunday to celebrate the birthday of the regime's founder, Kim Il-sung. The North state-run media reported Monday that Kim paid tribute to his late grandfather as well as his late father, Kim Jong-il, at the palace that serves as the mausoleum for the regime's late leaders. Pyongyang refrained from any provocative acts or words, in stark contrast from the past celebrations when the North conducted missile tests marking the occasion in 2016 and a large-scale military parade last year. Kim Il-sung's birthday, also called the Day of the Sun, is North Korea's largest national holiday. For the first time in 8 years, China's top diplomat is in Japan in what is being seen as a major step in thawing icy relations between the two sides. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, meeting with his Japanese counterpart Taro Kono on Sunday, said his visit was Beijing's response to Tokyo's positive messages and policies. Kono also said Wang's visit was a major step forward in their bilateral relations. The diplomats discussed the North Korea issue, their economic relations and territorial disputes in the East China Sea. They also touched base on the upcoming three-way summit with South Korea, set to take place in Tokyo next month. Now, in other news, South Korea is marking one of the most solemn anniversaries on this Monday. 4 years ago today, on April 16, 2014, the Sewol-ho ferry capsized in waters off South Korea's southwestern coast, killing more than 300 people, most of whom were teenagers on a field trip. Kim Hyo-sun has more on how people in Korea are remembering one of the darkest days in the nation's history.
4 years have passed since Korea witnessed its worst maritime disaster, which claimed the lives of 304 people, mostly high school students, on a field trip to Jeju Island. In memory of the Sewol-ho ferry victims, memorial ceremonies were held nationwide on Sunday. At the nation's southwestern port city of Mokpo, the ill-fated ferry lies above water and was open to the public for the first time.
Marking the 4th year since the Sewol-ho disaster, we are sharing the pain with the families of the victims through this memorial ceremony. We hope this tragedy can become a stepping stone for a safer society.
People gathered to remember the victims and the tragedy.
I feel so sad looking at the ferry up close. I hope we can make a safer nation for our children.
People also visited the official government memorial altar at Ansan, Gyeonggi-do Province, where the government will hold a special ceremony on Monday. Some 5,000 people, including Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun and the victims' families, are expected to attend. A separate memorial service will also be held in the western port city of Incheon, where the memorial altar for non-student victims has been prepared. Kim Yo-san, Arirang News.
And in the wake of the Sewol-ho ferry disaster, the government has designated today, April 16th, as National Safety Day to reflect upon the importance of public safety. A government-led event will be held at 11 a.m. in under an hour from now at the Central Government Complex in Seoul. Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun will be heading the event, and in his speech he's expected to propose roadmaps and policies that ensure a safer Korea. Around 400 people, including government officials and regular citizens, will be attending that event. This afternoon, the Prime Minister will head to a special memorial at Ansan, Gyeonggi-do Province. The Ministry of Environment will intensively crack down on automobile exhaust emissions in 17 cities and provinces starting today, in a bid to try and reduce fine dust levels this spring. Some 240 sites, including bus terminals, parking lots and highway slip roads, will be heavily monitored. The government also plans to crack down on over 4,000 buses and school buses that frequently enter city centres. Owners of vehicles exceeding the permitted emission standards will be ordered to fix the vehicle within 15 days or face a 10-day suspension. GM Korea is preparing to file for court receivership later this month due to its ongoing cash flow issues. The move could potentially put hundreds of thousands of local jobs in jeopardy. Lee Seung-jae with the details.
The automaker's cash crunch has seen Barry Engels, president of GM International, make 6 visits to Korea this year alone, which included 7 negotiation sessions between GM Korea management and the car makers' labor union. More than a dozen meetings were also held with officials from Korea's political and financial circles in an increasingly desperate bid to resolve the crisis. However, the outcome so far has been the same. With the hardships facing GM Korea showing no signs of easing, the automaker is now on the verge of filing for bankruptcy. After failing to come to an agreement during their 8th negotiation last week, GM President Dan Ah-min hinted that its Korean unit will file for bankruptcy, reiterating that the April 20th deadline for the company and its labor union to come to an agreement will not be delayed. According to a person familiar with the matter, GM Korea is expected to apply for bankruptcy protection around that date. It has warned the labor union that if it doesn't accept drastic restructuring measures, the car maker is likely to gradually shut its production facilities, leaving only design, R&D, sales and services operations in Korea. In the worst-case scenario, bankruptcy would mean 300,000 job losses. This would also mean GM Korea would need about $465 million by the end of April to cover severance payments and other expenses, as some 2,500 employees recently applied for voluntary retirement in exchange for severance pay and hefty cash payments. According to an expert, while massive layoffs are imminent, as the court will order restructuring first, it remains to be seen whether GM Korea can be salvaged or there's no other option than liquidation. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And as a follow-up to that report, more gloomy jobs numbers have been released. A report from the Korea Employment Information Service shows the number of people collecting unemployment benefits in the first quarter hit an all-time high. The amount of benefits paid to 628,000 people totaled $1.4 billion in the January to March period. That's almost 7% higher than a year ago and is the highest level since related data was first compiled 8 years ago. The report suggests that it's not just because more people are applying for benefits, but reflects a real rise in unemployment. The Korean government has been making efforts to help overseas expansion of local ventures. In fact, various programs have proved effective in helping Koreans get jobs and start businesses in Silicon Valley. Our Park Se-young with more.
Photoshop maker Adobe has signed an MOU with Korea to provide smaller companies with a range of technologies and to give outstanding individuals job opportunities.
Small businesses have an opportunity to really lead the experience journey for their customers in this marketplace. So I think that Korea is very well situated in terms of its market leadership.
This company, which has developed a detailed touch technology, received support from the Korean government during its first 2 years.
During our trial and error phase, we were able to utilize the infrastructure at the support center.
The support center in Silicon Valley is run by the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency.
First, we provide offices. Second, we offer consultations concerning marketing information and research, investment, and accounting.
Korea Innovation Center was launched in 2015 in Silicon Valley to foster startups. Over the course of a year, the companies go through a 4-step process of goals, outcomes, and feedback. As a result, a total of 13 startups have achieved a combined profit and investment of $48 million.
Our goals are to foster Korea's tech-focused ventures in small giants in Silicon Valley and to cultivate Korea's venture system to meet local market needs.
These programs are expected to help young scientists enter the ever-changing market. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, for a look at stories making headlines around the world, and we're going to start with the ongoing unrest in Syria. Plenty going on there over the past few days. The US ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, says Washington will announce new sanctions against Russian companies with links to the Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad. Her comments on Sunday come after the United States, the United Kingdom and France carried out airstrikes on targets in Syria for a suspected chemical weapons attack earlier this month. For more on this and other international news, let's turn, as we always do, to our Aram. So, Aram, the feud between Russia and the West rumbles on.
That's right, Mark. A very tense and hostile atmosphere between Moscow and the West, very reminiscent of the Cold War. The US and Russia again trading barbs at the UN Security Council over the weekend, with Russia's UN ambassador condemning the joint airstrikes on Syrian chemical weapons facilities as a violation of international law. He said they dealt a blow to the political settlement in the divided Middle Eastern nation. Syria and its ally Russia deny any poison gas attack took place. The US envoy, however, did not back down, hinting at more use of force to future Syrian chemical attacks.
I spoke to the president this morning, and he said if the Syrian regime uses this poisonous gas again, the United States is locked and loaded.
She also told a CBS interview that new sanctions against Russian companies with links to the Assad regime would be announced on Monday. She indicated they would be aimed at sending a message to Russia, which she said has blocked 6 attempts by the UNSC to make it easier to investigate the use of chemical weapons. Meanwhile, President Trump has defended his use of the phrase mission accomplished to describe the airstrikes. President George W. Bush was heavily criticized for appearing in front of a banner carrying the term during the Iraq War. The image was captured before the war ended, which many viewed as Bush's misguided intervention in the region. In a Sunday tweet, Trump said he knew the, quote, fake news media would seize on this, but used it anyway as it was a, quote, great military term that should be brought back. In other news, Israel says its military has detected and destroyed what it calls the longest and deepest guerrilla tunnel to stretch from the Gaza Strip into Israeli territory. A military spokesman said Sunday it had been dug by the Hamas militant group since the 2014 Gaza war and stretched several kilometers. It is the 5th such tunnel to be destroyed in as many months. Hamas and the Palestinian militant group Islamic Jihad used tunnels to blindside Israeli forces during the Gaza war, and Israel fears new tunnels are being built to launch new attacks. Support for Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's cabinet has fallen once again as the premier continues to be plagued by accusations of cronyism and cover-ups. A Kyodo News poll conducted over the weekend showed the approval rating dropped to 37%, which is down more than 5 percentage points from a survey conducted 2 weeks ago. The disapproval rate for the cabinet stood at 52.6%, up about 5 percentage points. Almost 80% of the respondents said they were dissatisfied with Abe's explanation over revived allegations that he helped a friend secure government approval to open a new veterinary school. Abe again denied last week that he gave his friend preferential treatment. The scandal is one of many that have crippled Abe's chances of winning a third term as leader of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party in a September vote. Hundreds of firefighters in Australia are tackling for the second night a massive bushfire that has engulfed more than 2,500 hectares near Sydney. The blaze began on Saturday in Holsworthy in the southwest of the city and spread quickly due to strong winds. Firefighters were, however, taking advantage of better conditions on Sunday to contain the fire, which has now died down to some degree. Police believe the fire may have been started deliberately and are investigating possible arson.
North Korea is swiftly gaining attention from the world, with U.S. President Trump agreeing to hold a summit meeting with Kim Jong-un. Congruently, more foreign tourists are visiting the demilitarized zone, or the DMZ, to get a glimpse of the scars and wounds of the Korean War. Let's visit the site to learn more about Korean history. The DMZ tour begins in central Seoul every morning. What compelled these non-Koreans to join this tour?
My expectations for this tour are hopefully to have a good view of North Korea and to learn a little bit more about what life is like for them, and also to learn a little bit about the history of North and South Korea.
The DMZ is a buffer zone established in 1953 when the Armistice Agreement was signed along the north and south of the military demarcation line, 2 kilometers into North Korea and 2 kilometers into South Korea. The first destination is Imjinggak Pavilion in Paju시, Gyeonggi-do Province, about an hour drive from Seoul. Only 7 kilometers from the ceasefire line, it is the railroad disconnection point between South and North Korea. This place is also dubbed the hometown for displaced people due to the close proximity to the north. Here, they perform ancestral rites by bowing toward their hometowns every New Year's Day and Chuseok, Korean Thanksgiving. Behind the Mangbaedan Memorial Altar is a Bridge of Freedom, which 13,000 South Korean prisoners crossed to return home during the war.
Keeping the bridge here is unbelievable so that we can hear the story and know what occurred here, and that we can learn from it and not resort back to the past of what happened.
Now go inside the military area, and then on your right side.
North Korea conducted numerous provocations even after the ceasefire in 1953. The 4 underground tunnels they built for secret forays into the south are prime examples.
But we found this tunnel in 1978.
The third tunnel, in particular, was deemed to be the most threatening as an invasion tool due to its proximity to the capital. Only 52 kilometers north of Seoul, or a 45-minute drive by car. Spanning over 1,635 meters in length, 2 meters in width, and 2 meters in height, it is estimated that approximately 30,000 soldiers could move through the tunnel per hour.
It's really nice to experience this firsthand, to see exactly what it looks like, and to actually see how many times the North tried infiltrating the South, to see the history, how close they are to one another.
The next stop is the Dora Observatory at the northernmost point of the military demarcation line, where visitors can catch a rare glimpse of North Korea through binoculars. How do foreign visitors feel seeing North Korea in person? The North Korean flag catches the eye. South Korea also has its giant flag on its side, and they are known to be the tallest flagpoles in the respective countries. Although the Korean War was suspended 65 years ago, tension and peace still coexist in the area.
It's history, but it's still going on. So, and as a history major, it's just interesting and fascinating to see. And indeed, like there's no movement, and you don't see this where we come from. No, it's very different. Interesting.
The last destination is Torasan Station, the only international station across the nation. It was once a route for freight trains with industrial supplies traveling into the north, but now a tourist train running once a day. The station is one of many symbols of Korea's separation, but it also reflects the hopes for a successful reunification. It's currently the last station toward the north, but it will eventually be the first one on the northern side when the railways are connected. How did the foreign visitors enjoy the DMZ tour?
It's a very interesting tour. It's very sad to see the separation between the two Koreas when obviously they should be together. I wish them the best of luck, but I'm not sure that it's going to be done in our lifetimes.
The DMZ vividly captures the scars and wounds of the Korean War, as well as the wishes and hopes for the future. Hopefully, it will turn into a symbol of peace for the Korean people sooner than we think.
Good morning. Spring warmth will return after a chilly weekend here in South Korea, while Beijing will also enjoy warm weather under sunny skies. The chilly morning is turning mild and temperatures will rise to reach near seasonal averages here in the capital, while southern regions will have to wait another day to see the temperatures rising back to seasonal averages. And here's a closer look at today's daily highs. Most parts will have a high of 18 degrees Celsius, including here in the capital and Daegu, while Gyeongju will make it to 16 degrees, and Jeju will have high UV rays this afternoon. The spring warmth will fully kick in starting tomorrow, with temperatures rising above 20 degrees Celsius, with no significant rainfall in the forecast. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. So most parts of South Korea will have sunny skies with pleasant temperature readings. Most of North Korea will have plenty of sunshine with mild highs as well. And as for the rest of Asia, over in New Delhi, maximum temperatures of over 40 degrees are possible early this week, with scattered thunderstorms expected today. Over in Sydney, bushfire conditions eased later on Sunday, allowing firefighters to step up efforts to bring the blazes under control. And for Monday, unseasonably warm temperatures will continue under strong sunshine. And heading to North America, a winter weather advisory for several counties in northern Illinois was issued last weekend, and snow continues for the start of the work week. And as for South America, Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro will have a rainy start to the work week. Taking you to Europe, those in Moscow will see sunshine early on before it becomes cloudy later in the day. Lastly, to Africa, other than Algiers, most parts will be under plenty of sunshine. And that's all the weather update for now.
Well, that's where we're going to leave our news for now. Our next bulletin is coming up at noon Korea time. So until then, goodbye.
year 2000, the first